good evening, family. Welcome to another edition of Thorough Black Talk with your sister Keisha, your brother Tad, and your brother Ashe SJ, along with our weekly correspondents, brother Blacksmith and sister Marcia, will be joining us shortly. I hope that each and every one of you are in the best of health today, mentally, spiritually, and physically. So much has happened this past week. A lot of things in the news, a lot of things happening around the world that we need to discuss. And so tonight, I hope each and every one of you would join us on this journey. Um, I want to give a special shout out to all of our viewers from around the globe, those who view us locally and internationally. We sincerely appreciate each and every one of you because you could be spending your Thursday evening somewhere else doing something different, but you choose to spend it with us. And before we go any further into this year, it is very important that we show our appreciation to our viewers, those of you who share it, watch it later on, those of you who um, critique it. We appreciate you as well. It's all good. Um, this week, we had a lot of our greats transition. Some had their homegoing services already. So we want to give honor and thanks to them. Also, a lot of shenanigans have taken place in the news, so we got to deal with that as well. I want to give a special shout out to Africans on a Rise. We had a great hike this past week, this last Saturday. A lot of people came out, um, had a good time, learned a lot, test their endurance, test their ability to make it through, um, surrendering themselves to the challenge of the hike. And it turned out great. We didn't lose any passengers. Everybody came home safely. And so we are thankful for that. For those of you who want to join us on the next one, please mark Earth Day 2024 on your calendars right now. If you're in the tri state area or if you want to travel into town to join us on these historical military science hikes. Um, I want to thank Sister Marcia and the elders of African on a Rise for inviting me to be their guest educator and camp, a hike leader. Excuse me, I keep saying camp, a hike leader. So I definitely appreciate all the brothers who were out there making sure that all of our young Kandakes and Watutus challenged themselves and completed the hike. I thank all of the brothers who were on deck. Most definitely appreciate each and every one of them. Also, those who prepared our lunch, appreciate you as well. So, thank you, and I hope to see y'all on the next one. Challenge yourselves. Um, Next week, we are going to highlight some of our elders in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, even in their hundreds, who are reversing the aging process. You're going to be shocked on some of the things that you're going to see next week because I want to encourage our people to get in the best health as possible. As I said, we lost some greats, and having a healthy system um, will um, carry you through in this life. But we're going to start out with some news. I see Don Lemon got the boot from CNN. That's what you get for being a butthole, Mr. Don Lemon. You didn't think it was going to act was going to come down on you, huh? But it came down on you. You got your wake up call, didn't you? So we'll talk about that later on when Brother Black and Sister Marcia get in here, and also Tucker Carlson from Fox News is gone. But I knew that was going to happen. um, with all of these lawsuits that Fox News is in the midst of, some that they have settled. And those of us who are in independent media, these are the cases we need to pay attention to because it affects us directly. So, and even those of you who comment online, um, these cases are very, very informative. They're trying to control even what you comment on. So we have to pay attention to these cases, and of course, I'll be putting my 2 cents into it. So um, we'll follow that as well. I believe um, uh, uh, they had the homegoing service for a photojournalist Kwame Brathwaite. Brilliant, brilliant brother. As far as that is concerned, if you don't know who Kwame Brathwaite is, please research him and get into his photojournalism. But Prize from the Fugees found guilty in international conspiracy trial. Now, let me go through this because it's also been reported and confirmed that he has some dealings with the FBI, um, or what some would call a soft informant. I don't know what that is. An informant is an informant, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't work in law enforcement, but I can read. And, this is not surprising. This is not the first international criminal enterprise that he has been involved in, um, including Wyclef. Like, I've had it with them at this point. But, you know, this is what happens when you try to play both sides of the fence. And of course, this intertwines China as well. Excuse me. He was found guilty of 10 counts related to a multi-million dollar clandestine foreign influence campaign scheme funded by a wealthy Malaysian financier to peddle influence in the United States, according to the Associated Press, and other news outlets. Now, what this means is that allegedly, because that's what we're gonna say here on this platform, but trying to buy influence for international access. Now you have to be um, intertwined with government entities in order to have this access in the first place. It says the trial included testimony from witnesses ranging from actor Leonardo DiCaprio and former U.S. Attorney General former U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The rapper, whose real name is Procazel Michel, was accused of funneling money from Lo Tai Jiao, a now fugitive Malaysian financier, through false donors to Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign, and then attempting to quash a Justice Department investigation and influence the extradition case on behalf of China under the Trump administration. So, good luck on that, Prize. This the game you want to play? See you on the other side. So, be careful of who you rock out with in these days and times. I see my brother Black is in here. We're gonna get Black in here because we got a lot to discuss. Um, what's up, brother Black?
What's up, Keish?
How you
Peace,
feeling,
peace,
brother?
peace, peace. I'm feeling peace. Good. Always happy to see you. I'm glad you're okay. Peace to the panel, peace to the people out there, and let's get it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Glad to have you, Black, with us too, brother. Of course, you and I have been chatting behind the scenes on some things and some things you want to discuss. We're going to do that. I also invited some UAM alum to join us as we talk about the master teacher, Alton H Maddox Jr. Um, I don't want to get too much into the man, but of his works as far as him being a master teacher. Um, I would put and I would challenge anybody against that. Um, Alton Maddox with the greats such as Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, um, Shashi McIntyre, um, Asa Hilliard. Alton Maddox made his transition um, this past weekend. Um, mm, I'm still trying to gather myself. You know, when I first heard it, because when I came from the camp, brother Black, I keep saying camp. I'm telling you, Mrs. Maddox is talking to me behind the scenes because I've been doing this for like a week. I keep saying camp, so she's talking to me behind the scenes. I gotta let her come through. But on the hike, you know, it was such a long day. We didn't get back, or at least the crew I was with, we didn't get back until 8, almost 9 o'clock. So from Bear Mountain, but so I slept pretty much, when I got in all through Sunday to recharge myself and recharge my body. So, but when I woke up, I found all these messages, like over 50 something messages on my phone. It was pinging, going crazy. So I went through, and when you first wake up, your eyes is a little foggy, and for us blind folks, it's really foggy unless we got our glasses. So I'm looking through the messages, and I'm seeing, that our brother, our elder, made his transition, and so I reached out to some people to confirm that. And yes, he had transition, but I'm still trying to gather all of that in my mind. Prior to going to the hike, I had been watching some videos of his that morning, because one of the things that we used to do at the Freedom Retreat is that we used to take um, modern, current news, current events, and relay that to the children in a legal premise so that they can understand what was going on behind the scenes to prepare them for their class with automatics, the following morning. So this is a routine that he had instilled in me um, from way back then, on how we articulate legalese to children. So I had been going through some videos of his, and to find that out, it just really took me, you know, my mind to another place. Um, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Before we have our guests, I see Sister Pat in the green room. We're gonna bring her in, and I got some others that are coming on. But before we deal with Brother Alton Maddox, we also lost Harry Belafonte. Now, last week, Brother Black, we were talking about, our favorite films and music and things of that nature. And we said we would continue it this week. And one of the films that is a favorite of mine is White Man's Burden, which starred John Travolta and Harry Belafonte. Now, I don't know if you've seen that film, Brother Black. Have you seen that film before?
Yeah, matter of fact, I put it on my first blog some years back. Very interesting movie. Very.
Fascinating. And even the cast, you had Atala Shabazz, the daughter of Malcolm X, who played in that. You had I can't remember her name, but she played Shug Avery in The Color Purple. She played his wife, actually, in that movie. Again, John Travolta. And what it was, the movie is about societal role reversals, right? And black people are the power structure, and whites are the underclass. Um, I don't want to give the
Right.
film away in case of you want to watch it, but you know, it was very intriguing the way it all went down. He ends up getting Harry Belafonte's character ends up getting kidnapped by John Travolta, and some things transpire. But it is a very, very psychological film that I think all of you will be interested in. Also, another favorite of mine is Carmen Jones, um, with Dorothy Dandridge. He played opposite her in that. So, and even the musical score of Carmen Jones, fantastic. The great Diane Carroll, Pearl Bailey, all of them in that film. So, what are your thoughts on Carmen Jones, if you've seen it?
I didn't see the original, but I did see the remake with McKee Pfeiffer and Beyonce some years back.
You got to see the original, brother.
Yeah, I didn't. I
You
can't
got to
comment on it.
see it.
Yeah, yeah.
It is fascinating. It is,
I know
and you
it
will
was good
see.
though.
Oh
I know it
man,
was good.
and what they went through to complete that film. You gotta We gotta talk about the story behind that. Um, but I'll wait until you check it out. I'm gonna send you a link so you can check it out for free. So watch that, and we'll break that film down. But again, he identified himself, not me, but Mr. Belafonte identified himself as an activist who happened to be an actor. His work with Dr. King and the civil rights movement, um, anybody who questions that need to read a New York Times advertisement that was, I think it was early 1960s. Dr. King was arrested, and there was an article or an ad in the New York Times that said, "Heed their rising voices." And these were Black celebrities who were in defense of Dr. King. And uh, Mahalia Jackson and Harry Belafonte had led the charge in that. And so when you guys get a chance to Google that New York Times ad, "Heed their rising voices." Now, the reason I came across that is because that ad was mandatory reading for UAM members. That was our mandatory reading. You know, from going to UAM, when you came, you got a program with legal, political, and historical information inside of it based on what UAM was engaged in at that particular time. Am I right? So, reading Heed Their Rising Voices was required reading. And we had to dissect that on many occasions. So that came to mind. But I want to get in to the legacy of this master teacher, Alton H Maddox Jr. When you see Sister Keisha and she can dissect um, political news, legal information, I got it through the teachings of attorney at war, Alton H Maddox. So we're going to dive into him, Brother Black.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
so I see my sister Pat. I was trying to wait for others to come in, but we're gonna bring her in because I wanted, sometimes people say, Keisha, you be saying some things, and maybe that ain't right. You know what I'm saying? But you know, why not bring those who can corroborate what you're saying, right? So I reached out to Sister Pat, Brother Peace, and Brother Ray, excuse me, Brother Mike, if and asked if they wanted to come on. I see Brother Peace is coming in now. It's a little bit too heavy for the History Hitman right now, because this is going to be a two-part series, because that's how intense the master teacher, Alton H. Maddox Jr., was. So we cannot do this in one setting. So tonight we will work on, discuss um, his tactfulness in teaching us the law. Um, in my humble opinion, I went to John Jay Criminal. So in my humble opinion, I didn't learn anything about the law despite what I learned at John Jay until I came across Alton Maddox, because he gave me insight on how to navigate the playing field. He was a great tactician, in my humble opinion, in doing that. So we're going to play some clips of Alton tonight. We're going to get into some things and we're going to share our experience with this great master teacher. So I see Sister Pat is here. We got Brother Magnetic Peace Tyson in the building. Glad to have y'all black in here. Let me see. Sister Pat, you need to unmute yourself.
Hotep, sis. Hotep.
Hotep, sis. Mm.
Hotep, brothers.
Peace, family.
Peace, 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 peace. That's how you got to bring Brother Peace in. That's how you got to bring him in. So you see the three shirts that we're wearing, right? Three different. This is what UAM. This is what UAM does.
That's right.
Saying this is what we do in three different forms. Now, when I called Brother Peace, when I text him and Sister Pat, I didn't say they had to wear UAM. We are in sync. That's just the way that we were trained by our master teacher. So, we're going, Brother Black. We're gonna let our guests speak first. All right. So we're gonna start with Sister Pat, who I respect as an educator, whether she knows it or not. She is an educator. She was the campaign manager for the History Hitman and Michael Lloyd when they ran their campaign under the Freedom Party. You see Brother Peace wearing his Freedom Party shirt. But Sister Pat, I wanted to invite you on to get your understanding, your perspective of this great master teacher. What did you learn from him?
Let me just say, no justice, no peace. Let me just start out with that. Woo. From a personal perspective, I learned that a black man is strong. I said that a black man can stand upright on his two legs and be a man. That's what I learned from his character as a man. That's one of the lessons. His political and his legal, astounding. It should be a playbook for all black lawyers, male and female. You going in that courtroom, you better study. You better study this man's legacy from the legal position, because he wrote a position that was never written before. And yes, he likes to say, and he gives kudos a lot to someone like Charles Hamilton Houston. He gives him kudos, but Alton took it to another level. And he took it to a level where I was able, and we were able to see up here, up north. And the reason why I said up north is because we talk about the civil rights movement. A lot of it has to do with the South. But here up north, things were no better. And Alton put a forensic light and showed you that it wasn't better with all the legal cases that he undertook. So those are just a few things. And I just an eeny minute of what I took from Alton and what he displayed.
That's what's up. Brother Peace, your perspective on this master teacher, his tactfulness on getting the layman to comprehend legalese. What are your thoughts on that?
The brother was definitely brilliant. And it stems from the love that he has for black people, for African people. That's why we always started off. We are an African people, robbed of our name, robbed of our language, robbed of our culture, on manhood or womanhood, but we shall rise, never to fall again. That was important. That was embedded. He wanted to share that with us. So his occupation was to be an attorney, but he was a warrior for African liberation. And he knew that we had to be re-educated, and this is why he brought in scholars that normally would not get the exposure, and he brought them in to the community so that we could be re-educated, debunk a lot of the BS, and let's deal with the facts. So we had a lot of star witnesses for the witness stand at the slave theater.
Oh man.
And it was brilliant of what he did. That was a model of what an institution supposed to do and how it is supposed to serve the community. So for that, I give much props and love and respect to attorney at war, Alton H Maddox. It was the love of his people that he had, and that was a driving force. And that's what I learned from him first and foremost: to love your people and stand on your square for the liberation of our people, no matter where we are. Case closed.
Facts. I couldn't have said it any better. He taught us what it meant to be of service to your people, and that none of us is free until all of us are free. But I wanted to play this clip really quickly, because you have all of these so-called activists um, who like to use that mantra, no justice, no peace, but don't know where the hell it came from. Tonight, you're going to know where it came from. Hold on, family.
Our womanhood, our manhood, and African people. Brought from our homeland, brought from our names, our languages, our cultures, our religions, our womanhood, our manhood, our sisterhood, our brotherhood, our mother, fatherhood, our selfhood, our nationhood, and our self-respect. But we shall rise, never to fall again. You mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. No justice,
No,
no peace. No justice,
no justice.
no
No.
Now,
outlaw.
that is the mantra um, that you heard every closing of every UAM meeting. Anybody who came to UAM and said they never heard that before, they lying. They never was there. They lying off the rip. If that's the litmus test. People
Mhm.
who say, I went through there. Well, what was the closing mantra? You say, well, I don't know. I never heard that before. Yeah, they wasn't there. They lying. So don't stop the conversation because they lying. Am I right, brothers and sisters?
You 100,
Absolutely.
100,
And you can't have
100.
peace. You can't have peace unless there's justice. And peace don't mean to stay home and waiting for the smoke to clear, then come out to celebrate. No, I don't mean that. That's why it is our duty and our obligation, as Frederick Douglass say, to agitate each and every day. We want to make shit uncomfortable for the opposition
That's right. That's right. That's right.
because we need justice. Only when we get justice, then we'll have peace. But until then, it's on and popping. And right
True.
now, you're lucky just to get some words. You know what I mean? So there it is.
100, 100,
100, brother
100,
Peace.
100.
Now, I wanted to talk about, remember when Alton used to have these workshops
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
now tell the
Cotton
people,
Club.
yes, sir. Tell the people what these workshops were like. Were they like a half an hour
No,
maybe?
no,
Come on, tell
no.
them, Pat, what was it?
All day, all day, we would have workshops, and you would get tons of material. Alton, it's his whole thing would be, if you come with a workshop with me, you're gonna do some work. There's gonna be some brainstorming. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to go back in and reactivate those brain cells, and you got so much information. And I remember going to these workshops. I was on there. You get a little break, you get a little food, go back in. But I like to say this: those were the workshops here in the city. But when we had those real workshops is when we went upstate for like the weekends. And we would have two major workshops. One would be around the holiday of the weekend of, I believe it was Christopher Columbus Day. And then the other one was like on the spring side. It wasn't Memorial Day, but I'm trying to remember there was some type of holiday on this side that we would do. And I'm telling you, you would go to these workshops, and those same workshops would be some of the same people that would be at the lectures. They be sitting there with the work study books, just like you. They would do lectures, but they'd be sitting in the classroom learning right alongside you. While this man is really educating all of us in fields in his own discipline, but it was so broad. He was an attorney, but he was broad with his knowledge. So you there was nothing to have somebody like Dr. Shashi McIntyre sitting right next to me in the workshop, and somebody like Utrice Lee sitting there as well, or Dr. Jeffries, or these things, Professor Kwameni, everybody be there. Even if they weren't the lecturer, they just there too. That's just part of the group in the workshop, just like all the rest of the people. So the information was so overwhelming. I mean, you literally come out those workshops and depress your brain because there was so much put on you within these time frames. You like, man, I'm out of school. No, you in real school. Like Brother P said, you got to forget all that nonsense and really learn. And he taught in a way where we, as like he would like to say, we are her historical oppressed people. And that's how he taught. And he said that's how he had to defend his clients, because they're historically oppressed. And that's how he went into the courtroom, knowing that he was going to defend a historical oppressed person here of African ancestry.
100. And two, I remember we had a workshop at City College. And we sitting there, and Wesley Snipes is in the workshop. Everybody in the workshop. I mean, you would have everybody who come because the information was so not overwhelming, but
Top
so
shelf.
top notch.
Yes,
You couldn't get,
yes.
like I said, I went to John Jay Criminal. You couldn't get that type of education there at all. So and I want to give a quick shout out before we move any further to Brother Ray Ray and the History Hitman, because I know personally that Brother Ray Ray and the History Hitman were, checking in on the chairman continuously. So shout out to them. Um, um, okay, all right. So we got some more people who want to come in. So they check it, talking behind the scenes. But I wanted to share with our family what one of Alton classes was like, right? So we're gonna show this to you real quick, family. Everybody, if you can mute your mics while we play this. It's about maybe 4 minutes, and then we'll come back and break it up and discuss it from that. How about that? Okay. So let me play this, family, and I want you to listen. Hold on.
Difficult for Black people to come together because we don't trust each other. The question then becomes, how can we write up a document creating our Declaration of Independence? Even though we distrust each other, we can nevertheless have a relationship with each other. And that really becomes a paramount issue. If you don't trust each other, and yet we're having all the problems that we are having, then it also does not make sense for us to be separated from each other. So the question is, what brings people together? That's the issue. What really brings people together? Well, if you look at what brought these people together, who some of you call founding fathers, but I prefer to call them fleeing felons. If you look at these fleeing felons and recognizing that there is no honor among thieves. All right, so when this Constitution was written, it was written with the idea that there's no honor among thieves, and we have to watch out for each other. All right, which is really, in a sense, parallel to our position, not because we have any criminal inclinations, but because we have been so fragmentized as a result of divide and conquer that we find ourselves in the same situation that they found themselves in more than.
Now, just hearing that clip, as it relates to brother Alton Maddox, you know, when he came out, he made it plain what the founding fathers were, so that we can take that out of our mind that they are founding fathers. What they were fleeing felons. No different. It's the truth, right? He called it what it was. Also, as you look at now, I know y'all see what's going on social media lately. There seems to be a lot of divisionist tactics with Black people today. These people want to identify as this. These people want to do this. These people don't. I mean, craziness. But in this 2-minute clip, he already explains what divisionist tactics is, right? Later on, he's going to talk about having common interests. It don't matter the tribe you came from. What are the common interests that bind us together legally, historically, politically, right? But I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then we'll come back and discuss it. Hold on, family.
When you look at the back of this self-government, where I listed under slavery, A through H, several provisions that deal with the Constitution. When you look at the commerce and credit, and there's ABC, 3 sections that deal with that. I had my little blackboard. Did that ever get here? Okay, well, while we bringing that on stage, when you look at the Constitution itself, the critical term that I want you to leave here with is this. The Constitution relates to interests. INTERESTS, interests. And that different people had different interests. All right? All of their interests were unlawful, but they nonetheless were different interests. You had some people who were slaveholders, and you had some people who were manufacturers, and people who were manufacturers were people who were not necessarily interested in slaves, and people who were landowners were not necessarily interested in manufacturing. Then you had your security holders, people who made their money by marketing stocks and bonds. Now, all of these were different interests. Now, if you look at the Constitution itself, what you begin to realize is that contrary to the idea that this document was established to protect minority rights or to give people certain freedoms. It was simply a contract that reflected various interests.
Now, let me remove it. Going to school, we all went to school. The founding of the country, the doctrine that we know as the Constitution, was it ever explained to you in that form before?
No.
You
That's
see,
why you gotta unlearn to learn.
Exactly.
you took the words right out of my mouth, Brother
Exactly.
Peace. And that's what he did. That's what he did. He made it plain for us. He didn't make it where you couldn't, a 5-year-old could understand what he was saying as far as the founding of this country, those who came together to found this country, and what the U.S. Constitution doctrine really was, right? Automatically, you already see, whether you want to believe it or not, because you got some people in these social media spaces who believe a lot of foolishness, but whether you want to believe it or not, your position in this country and what it was. Now, digress for a minute. Last week, one of our favorite films, Brother Black, was The Spook Who Sat by the Door, right? Now, I don't know if you know, but Sam Greenlee was anti-reparations, right? I don't know if y'all know that, but he was. However, in this particular lecture, Alton talks about why reparations is a must, why we need it, and how we can get it. It's plain and simple. Your thoughts, Sister Pat, on the clip that we've heard?
Okay, first thing first, I'm going to say it is, in those worksheets, he would always give out information, and always it be Confucius say, "The beginning of wisdom is calling thing by its proper name." He would always quote that. That would be one of his favorite quotes. Always, always, because once you get clarity, then you have a better understanding. And then he says things like, Africans in thinking with, we have to learn how to think with precision, and drafting up words that would help us and assist us. And he talked about, Daniel Webster setting up the line of the dictionary for the Europeans, right? And he talked about he wanted to do one and get somebody to do it. I remember him saying that. But in that particular clip leads to things that Alton wipe the slate and say all of that they taught you is no true. And the Negro title holders who are putting that out, who are also, allowing the founding fathers to quote that nonsense, you got to watch them, because apparently either they are not aware of it or they're just misleading the flock. And those are the things that Alton used to try to pull back. And the other quote that I like that also helps with this: you can't run with the hares and hunt with the hounds. And the title, Negro holders who are out there, those Negro elected officials and politicians and people who, made their lot, was doing that, keeping us in the dark to the truth of what this whole thing was based on. So I hope that I said it in the way that Alton would explain it to you.
Definitely. Brother Black, your thoughts on that clip?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. On the clip, it's so many things that he said. Wow, it's just, I'm still not over the fact that he's no longer here, and I had a lot of questions, but I'm sure we'll get to that a little later. Profound as usual. Always an angle that we couldn't think of, or even if we thought about it after school, we didn't get taught on that perspective. And just, the man was I wrote an article some years ago on my first blog, which was called blacktoafrica.blogspot.com, where I wrote down a whole bunch of multi-geniuses, and I'd included myself, and Alton was the last one in there before me. So that's to
Got
cover
you.
the whole thing, the whole spectrum.
Got you. Sister Marcia, I see you. Have you been listening behind the scenes? What are your thoughts on, well, first of all, what are your thoughts on Attorney at War Alton Maddox as a master teacher?
So let me say greetings to everyone, and may the ancestors behold all as he returns home and re-energizes us to become stronger warriors through his teaching. So one of the main things is the unfortunate part that I was not privy to his classroom teachings. I was privy to his on stage presence at UAM, and those days were phenomenal. In terms of the discussion about that particular clip, it is pivotal for us to understand what the Constitution means. It is pivotal for us to not, and someone said to unlearn and relearn, for us to relearn our position within the Constitution outside of just saying three fifths. What does three fifths mean? And what does every other part mean? Because all the times we're just, oh, it was just three fifths and now we're whole. You're not whole because you don't understand the other parts of the Constitution. And so it just begs that we still have a lot of studying to do. And it also begs that if we want to create the future that we want to see, that we drill this information into the young scholars coming up behind us. Because if not, we're going to, they're going to be having these same conversations about how great someone is or was outside of the results of the greatness. The results of Alton's greatness is that we have these 5 people, including myself, on this panel talking about his greatness, right? Now we need to multiply our 5 greatness and all the other folks into really creating action plans for the next generation, or else we're still going to have those stupid conversations that are happening right now between FBA, ADOS, and everybody else that has an objection about who they are in America. Forget all of that. We are all in the same boat. And until we remember that and figure out how to form a one code, like Sister Keisha always says, what's our code? We need to get on code. What is our code? We need to develop that code and have our children and our grandchildren and even our parents understand what the code is so that we could move in action. We're not moving in action yet, but we're getting there.
Thank you, sis. Again, just you going to those forums, the education that you gained from going there, as you said, to have something tangible besides a memory, that was Alton's blueprint. This is why you had the United African Movement. This is why you had the Freedom Retreat for boys and girls. This is why you had the Freedom Party. Tangibles, not being sidetracked with other entities that aren't in our interests, right? One of the things that, Alton loved Marcus Messiah Garvey. That's the reason why the UAM operated the way that it did, right? Number one. Number two, that's why he closed with that mantra too, giving honor to Garvey, even though Garvey, as he said, short man from Jamaica, who came here. You understand, making us see the connection that we all have, right? There was no divisionist tactics within the United African Movement as far as that is concerned. We were very well aware of our plight in this country and abroad. No one was confused at all. And if you came to a forum, You weren't confused anymore. So he made that plain. Also, what I wanted to ask the panel was, how did his teachings influence your thought process as you view the political landscape that you're seeing now? Or even before, did he change your scope, or is your scope still the same? I'll start with Sister Marcia.
Um, Absolutely changed my scope. Absolutely had me don't look at an elected official as being your friend. What are the policies that the elected official is standing on? And before then, I wasn't an educated voter. I would just do what the masses said, go out and vote. And I think this is like really right after Barack, I really started going into UAM and stuff like that. And he's like, look at the policies. How is these things affecting your lives? And before then, you're hustling, you're just going to work, doing this, you're like a machine, like a time wheel, but never sitting down and really considering what your actions means. So it helped me politically, and it helped me personally to look at my actions when I'm taking a motion forward. Because if I'm not looking at my actions, am I bettering my community, or am I just harming the community? I think, no, in fact, I know that Alton really helped me do that critical analysis when I am making a decision, whatever it was, whether it's personal or nationwide. What does this decision you're making, how will it affect your brothers and sisters? And then there was one time he says, forget even about your brothers and sisters. What about the future? What does the future look like? And I never really considered the future because I was in that selfish mindset of only identifying with self. And once you start thinking about the future, you forget about little old self and you start thinking of the masses. So thank you, Alton, for that.
Got you. Brother Peace, I'll pose the same question to you. Did he change your scope on the political landscape as it is shown to us? I mean, it's shown to us as Democrat, Republican. We all got to take part in it. Don't worry about, you know, your personal interests. Look at the greater good, that type of stuff. Did it change your political landscape, I would say?
Well, absolutely. It, he gave me a more clearer lens through which I look at things. And being an attorney, you have to look at what are the facts as opposed to feelings. Too many of us operate on feelings, emotions, as opposed to what are the facts. So just like a third party that is not even present in court, that testimony is not allowed. You know what I mean? So you got to be in the present and only deal with the facts. So clarity of sight is important. And as it relates to the political world, common interests. We're not voting, and we should not vote just because he or she looks good or he or she belongs to a particular party. What's in it for us? What's in it for Black folks? And too many politicians want to, what's in it for everybody? Everybody's not in the same boat that we are in. Everybody's not in the same condition that we are in. So just like the game of Monopoly, you have to have the dice and you have to have your cut in order to participate. And that video that you played earlier, dealing with the founding fathers, all white folks are part of the capitalist system, and they're looking at getting a piece of the pie. And as long as the pie is being divided among themselves, they good. So even though one have a different religion, a different view, it don't matter as long as they get a cut and slice of the pie and keep black people back. And that's what too many of us don't understand about the role of politics. So Alton Maddox helped me to see things more clearly and look long term. So I'm very grateful. And he brought in experts in their particular field.
Right.
So whether you came on a Wednesday night or you participated on a Saturday workshop, it was all about education. That's why the Dr. Ben, the Dr. Clark, and the whole list of people that were for us, for the most part, he brought in. So you had experts in their particular area. So just because, for example, I know I've had teeth work done on my teeth, that don't make me qualified to be a dentist to operate on yours. You know what I mean? And you get too many people that just because they have some little knowledge or awareness of a particular area, think they're experts. It don't work that way in the real world. So Alton Maddox brought in experts in their respective fields to give clarity to what the deal is. Right. So the UAM, the slave theater, was an institution for other black folks to emulate and copy. And it's a shame that building is not there so that our children can see and ask, what is this slave theater about? So white folks are erasing history. So we understand what is called culture cancel. They've been doing it a long time. There ain't nothing new. Anytime something comes across that is going to be in opposition of white supremacy, the white folks, they want to crush it. They want to cancel it out. They want to erase it. So Alton Maddox, brilliant. So the spirit of the warrior will live on, and I want to do my part, agitate. I love it. I'm born for this.
I know that's right. Go ahead, brother. Peace. You couldn't make it no plainer than that. I tell you what, I know the squad to bring in here. I know him. Stop playing with me. I know he changed the political landscape for Sister Pat. How do I know? Because she wouldn't have been a campaign manager of the Freedom Party. So, but Sister Pat, I'll let you give your perspective. Go ahead.
Well, let me just share with the audience that I grew up in community politics. You know, I was being reared in the Democratic clubs. And so I had very early bit my teeth in the political world with local politicians. And because I had some of that background knowledge, but when you sit with a brother like Alton and he begins to share and open up your eyes and he pulls back the layers and he explains to you who the poverty pimps are and people who are just, you know, we have good shepherds and stuff like that, but then you just got people who are just lining their pockets and they really don't care whether or not they're running in a political landfill, cesspool is not helping the masses of the people in the community. It's just for maybe a few people who are going to scratch out a living. That is clear. And he brought it to all of our attention. And to be clear, he talked about the duopoly of the bird with the two wings. It don't matter where the bird lands, the Republicans and the Democrats is corporation. Now that is the education I got from him. I didn't get that from being in the politics around the politician. They didn't share none of that. You know, they're just there November and primaries and get the vote out and get to the ballots and do the canvassing, all of that. I know all of that because I did all of it. But when you look back and you peel it back, like Brother Alton gave us a true education, he opened up my eyes like this. Then I was able to see, you know, being misled by the dumb, deaf, and the blind until you get somebody like him who comes along and becomes a good shepherd because he says we're all being preyed on. And you need somebody to protect the prey and not as a hobby because that's how he dealt. I don't do this as a hobby. When you dealing with like he said, descendants of enslaved, oppressed people, you can't do this as a hobby. It has to be business minded with a business plan laid out so they can understand it. That's what Alton did for me, and I'm sure that that's what he was trying to do for all of us by trying to create, as you know, a freedom party. He said we had the numbers, especially at that time. We had the numbers. New York City had the numbers. We didn't even need the Latinos at that time because they didn't even have the numbers. But we had the numbers. But we were too afraid because we had too many, sheeps and wolves and sheep's clothing. They just want to be part of it and just giving their votes to the political machine, which is the Democratic Party. And like he would say, you know, blacks got to stop being the mules and the donkeys.
I agree. I agree. I want to talk about the Freedom Party because, first of all, that in like you said, New York City, this is the financial capital of the world, right? I think they just had articles in the New York Times and the Daily Blues and the New York Post. Um, they just had articles that you got to have a minimum of 100 grand just to live here in this city. It's rough. But he he talked about that. Now the Freedom Party, I want you and Brother Peace, and I'm gonna get Brother Black in here. I think I see him in the green room. He got his thing fixed out. We going let me see. I got you. I got you, Black. I got you, Black. I got you. There we go. There we go. So, and I like the way our images on the screen are surrounding the gateway to the Brooklyn Bridge, right? Because when you come across this bridge, you better have a pass. For real, for real. Um, this Brooklyn was the headquarters of the Freedom Party. So you better have a pass when you cross this bridge. Now, how important, as you said, Sister Pat,
Your girl
at
used
that
to
time
say.
we had the numbers. We didn't need Latinos, we didn't need white women, we didn't need none of that here in New York. In fact, we crisscrossed the state to make sure that we had the appropriate number of signatures
That's
to
right.
form a political party, even though we had saboteurs and others who came against us, as Sister Pat mentioned. People just wanted to be around and then use what we were doing to feed the body of the Democratic Party. But we'll save those for part two. But I just want to, because at this particular time, Sister Pat, because our chairman has made his transition, a lot of people already started with the shenanigans online. We've seen some lies, we've seen some falsehoods, we've seen some people trying to capitalize off a particular situation. So I was in various chats, shutting it down as best I could. Um, but when it comes to the Freedom Party, how important was it for black, or is it for black people to have their own political party?
Well, let me just say, it's the importance. I can't understate how important we should have a political party. Then we won't be misused and abused in the Democratic Party. Um, just by having an option, even on the Democratic Party, you would get a better deal. But if you don't at least have an option, they'll keep treating you, the way they treat us. And, this old saying is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results is insanity. So that's where we are. on from a political perspective, locally and nationally. We'll continue to do the same thing over and over, and same results. Get to the back. Get to the back. Get to the back. Now in this present climate, they are busing in people, literally busing people in. Now, where we used to be a majority minority, we are now becoming a minority. So the hand we were able to play back in the day when we had an opportunity to do what we had to do and we didn't do it, now it puts us in a position now we really get to the back, get to the back of the bus. You ain't even on the bus no more. We're not even on the bus no more. We ain't gonna ride the back of the bus. We're not gonna be on the bus at all. So, you pose that question. Unless you do something different, we're gonna get the same result. So, answering the question, should we give reparation? We would have reparation if we had our own political party.
Come on, sis.
That in of itself would give you reparation, your own political party. Don't beg them. They'll be begging you. How much you want? How do you want it? What you want from us? Because then they would be trying to get you. But, until we use that, don't take no genius. It just takes the effort. And be aware of the saboteurs, because they're going to be out there, because they only wish to line their own pockets,
Got you. I see Sister Marie. She put on the screen. I like that he didn't sell out like the other perm dude. Let me deal with that, Sister Marie. I'm glad you put that on the screen.
Ooh.
Because speaking of perm dude, who was dancing a jig at some event he had or what have you, and it really disturbed me because, well, before I get into that, what Sister Pat says in 2013, we really missed an opportunity to take the political landscape to a higher level. We missed the opportunity. Black people in the city, in the state of New York, missed a huge opportunity to change the world in 2013. And sometimes, Sister Marcia, you can't get those opportunities back. And so I am pissed off with the majority of Black people in the state of New York. I am pissed off. So until we correct that, I'm going to still be pissed off with you. You can't debate me on a goddamn thing as far as politics is concerned, because what took place in 2013 was criminal. It was criminal. And we'll break that down in part 2. We're going to get into all of that, but I want to deal with Perm Dude. Perm Dude will be sitting in the cell for the rest of his life if it wasn't for the attorney at War Automatics. Nobody wanted to take his case. Nobody. Because they knew he was guilty of sin, first of all. And second of all, no attorney, Black or white, want to go up against the New York government cartel. It is a cartel. And if you believe otherwise, you are a fool. Now, Brother Peace, I want you to talk about Perm Dude's freedom. How did Perm Dude get his freedom?
The excellence, the commitment that Alton H Maddox Jr. had for his people.
That's right.
He showed that, demonstrated his ability to go up against Goliath in a courtroom, free of charge, pro bono, when there were many people that did not want to deal with Perm Dude, Reverend Perm Dude, and he crushed the opposition.
Yes, he did.
Without calling one witness of his own. He used all the state's people
exactly
and crushed them. They broke into Alton Maddox's car and stole his briefcase. They suspended him in the middle of a trial. Yet, Alton stayed focused and committed to kicking butt. And one of the motivating reasons for him to be an attorney was because what they did to Malcolm X when he was in school, and he told the teacher he wanted to be an attorney, and the teacher crushed his heart, crushed his dream and vision. Say, nobody would hire you, nobody would deal with you. You're better off being a carpenter, caused Malcolm to drop out of school. Alton learned that and said, you know what? I'm going to be that attorney to fight for my people. So he did that and freed Sharpton, Alfred Sharpton, from 67 counts. I think there were maybe 4 or 5 other counts, but definitely 67 counts, where, if my memory serves me, if he was found guilty on 1 count out of 67, he could have did 5 years easy. Alton crushed him. And it's a shame that part is not in the documentary Loudmouth. You weren't so loud to talk about that in that documentary, or the Tawana Brawley case.
Come on, brother.
You got me out doing what you're doing if it was not for Alton H Maddox Jr. You kicked him to the curve. You turned him back. That's why I tell people, no true revolutionary, someone for the people, will be allowed to get a radio station and television station to talk to the people. There it is. Alton H Maddox saved Sharpton's ass.
Can't make it no plainer than that, brother. You can't make it no plainer than that. It is what it is.
And let me say this.
Go ahead, brother.
The Freedom Party, just by looking on the picture, you can see there's a chain and it's being broken. So the mission statement of the Freedom Party was to break the chains of white supremacy. And that's what all other political parties are not down for. To change the dynamics, to change the status, break the status quo. They're not for that. The Freedom Party was for that. That's why it had to be sabotaged. That's why it had to be shot down.
You know, people say that the reason he was suspended from the practice of law had to do with the Brawley case, but it didn't. It didn't. Had to do with this case, with Mr. Sharpton. Because remember, when Alton would tell us, they said it was either going to be him or Sharpton. And he defended him. He defended him. Now, I want you to see this piece in the Amsterdam News. I'm going to read. Hold on. Give me a second, family. Because I don't like shenanigans, right? And kudos to the Amsterdam News. For those of you who don't know, Brother Maddox had a weekly column in the Amsterdam News. Am I right, family?
Yes,
Which he paid for.
until William Tatum passed and his daughter took over, then too much heat, I guess, was on her for Alton writing in the columns. Therefore, he was dropped. Or cancel culture was in operation back then.
Yep.
Absolutely. And they didn't pay him. He paid for those columns.
That's right. Out of his own pocket.
That's right.
Now, speaking of Perm Dude, I'm reading this piece in the Amsterdam News, and I get down to paragraph number 5. And it says, Reverend Sharpton declared, I've spoken to Charles Maddox to give my condolences for myself and Nan. I have not spoken or seen Alton in 20 years. It's 2003. Actually, I think he saw him in 2008. And how do I know that? Because there was a private screening for the movie Cadillac Records. Um, Three of us in UAM worked security. It was put on by Mrs. Maddox's cousin, Donnell. And Donnell hired myself, Brother Blake, Brother Leonard, and James Patnard to be security for those events, for his movie screenings. Um, Mr. Sharpton, he was still married at that time. He and his wife arrived. Um, they had special seating for certain guests, but it was totally up to our discretion, the security team, where we would place people. Um, so I think Alton arrived a little bit later than Leola, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know if he was parking the car or what have you, but she waited on the side and we waited until he came, and then by that time, Kathy and Al had already arrived. Now we sat them in their designated seats, but the UAM members of us, we made sure that Leola and Alton were placed ahead of him. So I know he saw and spoke to him that evening. And that was after 2003. But I just wanted to make that plain. So he says, um, I had not spoken or seen Alton in 20 years, and we had our tactical and ideological differences that he chose to make public. But now is the time for us to give our prayers and thoughts to his son and grandchildren. Absolutely. Well, yeah, we are going to give our thoughts and prayers to his son and his grandchildren. But don't try to throw shade, Sharpton, because you wouldn't even be able to give a goddamn comment to any news media if it wasn't for him. In all of that, you still couldn't say, I thank him for getting me my freedom. This is why I don't respect you. And I hope you slip on a banana peel face first. I said it. Nobody else on this panel said it. I said it. You are wicked. Point blank in the period. You never advocated for this man to get that suspension lifted off him, even though you know the criminal cartel of the New York State government imposed it on him. Not because he broke any laws, there was any client privilege broken, there was any violation. This cartel placed it on him. And you still say nothing. So I hope you get what you rightfully deserve. And you will. You will, sir. Your thoughts on that piece, Sister Pat, and then I'll go to Brother Black.
Um, Being in UAM when they were both there, when you all collectively one organization, um, you know, what was shared when you start seeing things going in a different direction, and having been somewhat of the inner circle, Sharpton had got tapped on the shoulder. I'm using the word, he had got tapped on the shoulder. And when he got tapped on the shoulder, he actually took a verbal lambasting from the Jones brothers. And I was there. And they told him, don't go following that messy Jesse. And unfortunately, that's what happened. You know, but as far as his, Alton going in there and defending him, well, I had conversations with Brother Maddox. And I said, Brother Maddox, I think somewhat you kind of you got a bad reputation for, people who won't do the right thing. He said, Sister Bad, what you gonna do? You just gotta take a chance. You never know how somebody's gonna turn out. But we all see how he turned out. He turned out not good. And somebody like an Alton Maddox, educated, went to school, became this great attorney, wind up living a shadow life in poverty, where a guy like Sharpton, who probably had maybe a GED, I'm not sure, I don't know his education, but now he's on CNN. How does that work? How does this work? There's something that went awry. And what goes awry is that when you betray your people and you lead them down the wrong over the cliff, we will reward you. But if you're protecting your people, we're gonna strip you. So, you know, that's how you have to look at these things from a real perspective. There are people who are going to live a life of luxury off the behalf of their people. And then there's going to be other people like the Dr. Benz and Dr. Clark. Dr. Clark, I remember him saying, I could have did something else, made a lot of money, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. I would do this type of work for the benefit of my people. So, succumbing to humbleness and living a legitimate life without betraying your people, I'd rather be the latter like them. If I had to choose a footstep, that's where I would go.
In the words of Spock from Star Trek, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
I feel you, brother. I feel you. Brother Black, you have wrote some things in your blog as it relates to the attorney at war. Let us know what it is that you talked about in your blog. Unmute yourself, brother. All right. He's trying to work that out. In the meantime, I want to play a clip because even when they suspended him from whooping their butts in the courtroom. Basically, that's what it was. They couldn't stop him. He didn't lose a case. He was just on fire. And I'm talking about unwinnable cases. Unwinnable cases, especially, when, what's her name? Marla Hanson. First of all, I got to digitize.
Long shot case.
Yes, I have to digitize because I have some VHS tapes of his courtroom interactions, right? When they was going down. I do. I gotta take the time to digitize that stuff. But when he was representing Willie Boston and what went down in the courtroom, the people really got to see that. So I definitely got to digitize that stuff. I got to sit down on one day and stream it so that you guys can see what took place. When I talk about him defending his clients, he defended his clients with everything that he had in him. And that include physical altercations with court officers. Can y'all talk about that? Go ahead, Sister Pat.
Well, put it this way. Alton does not practice law in a conventional sense. And he doesn't do it for a reason why. According to him, he said, jurors, unless you get the jury laughing and on your side, you can forget it because testimony and all of that is lost. So he already had a game plan before he came in there. Now, as far as the court officers, Alton is always going to be the same man, and it doesn't matter where you put him. So in the courtroom, he's not going to kowtow and succumb to, because I'm in the court in front of this judge, I'm going to stop being a man. I'm still going to be a man. And if you put your hands on me, you're going to see the man. So this is what happened. It wasn't that he started anything, but when they start getting a little uppity and a little rambunctious, he started like, hey, you swiping me, I'm swiping you back. So that's how he operated. Now, from what I understand about the case with his client, they was roughing his client up in his presence. Normally, they do that in the back outside of the purview of the lawyer. But let me just say, they did it in his presence, and he didn't take kindly to it. Nor did he take kindly to it in other courtrooms. They have outraged when we had to go to court for things like that, once again, they flood the courts with, I mean, they bring in court officers from other states and look like, because I don't think they have that many court officers, but they fill it up. And then they come and Alton doesn't have it. You start grabbing me recklessly, I'm going to react. And that's what he do. He don't act like, oh, I'm going to go away, put my hands behind. He just doesn't do that. So those are the cases in situations where they were trying to get him on ethnic charges. But all of those things got thrown out in those cases where those things happened because they knew they were wrong, just trying to rough somebody up. Well, they rough people up who are not attorneys, but they try to rough him up, and he was not having it. Put your hands on me, I'm putting hands back. Basically, I'm defending myself. So that's how he operated. You know, like he said, that's how I roll. You know, those are the education of Alton Maddox.
I know that's right. And you know, people don't know that the attorney at war escaped the lynching
Yes,
in
yes,
Georgia.
yes,
Literally had the
yes,
rope around his neck.
yes, yes,
So,
yes,
you know, if you came to the forums, he talked about that several times.
yes.
Escaping these white supremacists. And this is what I'm saying, you know, I guess that's why I always had this fire in my belly going to a predominantly white school in an all white neighborhood and have to fight every day to have handcuffs put on me every day. And until you walk that life, you don't know what the hell you talking about out here. You don't know what you're talking about. But again, even in the suspension, he gave legal counsel to so many people. I mean, people in the BLM, Black Liberation Army, BLA, excuse me, Black Liberation Army, Black Panthers, oh, they freedom to this man. So many. I remember him talking when Brother Chokeway had to defend him.
Right.
Come on,
Yes,
y'all
yes.
talk about that, Brother Peace. Go ahead.
Yeah. Chuck Wade was a very good brother that eventually went into politics and unfortunately had a mysterious death right afterwards after winning. Chuck Wade was definitely a powerhouse and a student, I believe, of Brother Maddox. And Brother Maddox had 3 rules. You talk to me, you don't talk to my client. My client does not take the witness stand. There be no cop out, no plea bargaining.
Yep.
Right? No plea bargaining. And what else? There was something else. No plea bargaining. You talk to me only. And he does his own investigation. He don't ask what happened. He does his own investigation to find out what's happened. And that's how he rolls from there. He says there was only one case that he lost because he allowed his client to testify, and his client got caught up by the prosecutor. Ever since then, no more take the witness stand. He does all the talking is done through him, and as a result, success across the board. But that's a good picture. That's a Chuck Wade Lumumba. Chuck Wade.
Can I just bring some clarity to that case?
Go ahead, sis.
The case wasn't that he lost the case. What happened was he was going to file a case on mental incapacity on the man's behalf. But what happened is at the last minute, the man pleaded guilty because he wanted to save his children from going and testify against him because he had killed his wife in front of his children. So that's the case. So I'm just trying to bring a little clarity to that particular case. But outside of that, he don't put his clients on stand. And the reason why he said it is because his clients don't speak legalese.
Mm-hmm.
We don't speak. Why put you in a box when you don't speak legalese? You know, these prosecutors will cross you up. You know, we don't understand the legalese. You know, he said he had a client, and the client said they said something to the client about you ain't got no heart, and the guy said,
right,
you know, right? When you ain't got no heart, you know, like everybody has a heart. Well, that's just a cliche. So you can't put black folks up on stands using terms like no heart because the medical examiner said yes, he had a heart. You know, so Alton says that's the reason why I put nobody on stand because black folks have their own way of speaking, and it will definitely get misconstrued sitting in that witness stand.
Without interpreter.
You know, these are things you learn. These are things you learn. And he expressed. And I just want to say one other thing, sister, when you made that statement about him being almost lynched. And I wrote that down, and it said, he said, I vowed early on that I would be a man even if I had to face a slip knot, which I did have to face a slip knot in Georgia and in Alabama. On two occasions, they almost got him. So that's how he operated.
I'm just sharing some photos on the screen, family. You can go to the UAM
Really?
Facebook page and you can see
Yeah.
some of these photos, some of these great attorneys. William Augustus Jones, you had Mr. Beatty there from the Cotton Club.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, you,
Bungie Najee,
yes,
Hilly?
Najee,
Hilly?
uh,
yep.
I'm
Oh man.
looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So, so y'all can check these out.
Jeffrey. Yeah, this the brother. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah. Wow.
Y'all can check these out. Just go to UAM, U.A.M on Facebook, and you can go through some of these images on the screen. I mean, that we have up there. In fact, this page was created by James Bryson, um,
Oh,
Wow.
and he made me the administrator of it. So I've been trying to keep it up since Brother Bryson has transitioned.
okay.
But he is in good company. Brother Maddox is with his queen, Leola Maddox. He
Mm-hmm.
is with UAM alum like uh, Nurse Clark,
Oh boy.
Sister Margaret. I mean,
Oh my
Karen
goodness.
Mason. You know,
So
he's
many.
yes, James Padnars, James
Yes.
Bryson, James Anthony,
Many.
Harold Wilbur. I can go
Yeah.
on and on and
Come
on.
on.
He is
Yeah.
in good company. And I can imagine what they are discussing right now. And so I'm going to pray that whatever they're discussing, that they push it through to all of our brains as we sleep tonight. We really got to understand the political, economic climate that we are in. I see you, Brother Black. I just want to pull this out. There you go. I got you. I got you. Now, talk about what you wrote about, Brother Black.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about what I didn't write about because y'all mentioned a lot of what I already put in my little article. You hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
We
Yeah.
hear
yes.
you
Okay.
clear. We
Good.
hear you clear.
But what? Let me tell y'all how master. Okay. Let me tell y'all out there who don't know who attorney at war Alton Maddox was. The man was so masterful that he got off a dude. I don't remember the names in particular right now. That was attempting to being raped by a Catholic priest, and the dude, it was a brother, a young brother, a teenager at the
Andre
time.
Nichols.
He
Nichols.
killed
Andre
the
Nichols.
priest, and Alton.
He got frozen up. But the young man name was Andre
Andre
Nichols
Nichols.
from Fort Greene, Brooklyn. I went to school with Andre's sister, Krista. We were in the
There you
same
go,
class.
downtown.
Andre was in my cousin's class. But go ahead.
Wow. Yeah. So this is how masterful this man was. This dude walked without any charges. What I did say in my last article that the Central Park Five would have been the Central Park Six. Alton Maddox's only client went home after pretrial. No charges, nothing.
Michael
Gone
Briscoe.
home, and that's it.
Briscoe. Michael Briscoe.
There you go. There you go. I forget the names because I'm a little younger than y'all, but y'all know what I mean.
That's because when Alton goes to court, he said, "I don't want no discovery. Put 12 in a box." And when they got wind to it, they said, "Who's defending that young man?" And they said it's automatic. They said, "Let him go. Let him go. Let him go.
It would have been a firestorm up in
Let
there.
him go." Let
So
him go.
They ain't want no trouble.
they don't want no smoke, as Keisha said. They don't want no
There
smoke.
you go. There you go. Real facts. Real facts. And again, even in the documentary about those young boys who are now men now, and what they went through, no one talked about Michael Briscoe. And that's again to silence the genius of Attorney Maddox. They could care less about Michael Briscoe. It's about silencing his genius. That's what they did. But I'm gonna show a clip real quick, because I see, yeah, Sister Veronica, he always said 12 in the box, because the burden of proof is on the prosecution, not the defense.
Exactly.
So the more time you give them to build up a case, the worse it's gonna be for you, possibly. So he was like, I don't want no discovery. Give me my 12 in the box right now. Let's go. Let's go. And they thought he was crazy. But he came out the victor each and every time. So, but I want to play this clip, and I think you're in this clip, Brother Black, on Throwback Thursday. You know how I like to pull him out the crate. Hold on. Like again, I said, even in his suspension, he gave legal counsel to so many people. One of the last people was Ramsey Order, who
Yes.
was the videographer of the murder of Eric Garner.
Mhm.
And Brother Maddox gave him legal counsel. And a lot of us was there in the courtroom or at the courthouse when
Yeah.
this took place. And I know Brother Black was out there. But, and Sister Pat, hold on one second, family. We're going to play this clip and then we'll come back. We'll discuss and close this out. Continue with part 2 for next week. Hold on, family.
I'm especially thankful for all of you being here, and I'm particularly thankful for our young people. Yes. And those.
Can we do a mic check so people could hear that back on the back too? Do you mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Mic check. Mic
Mic
check.
check.
Mic check. Mic check. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm especially thankful.
I'm especially thankful.
You can't hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, well, hold on, brother.
It's the youth
I understand that at certain rallies they do the mic check, but our folks we communicate in a different kind of rhythm. No, we can appreciate what they do, and I know what they do because sometimes they have such large crowds that when they do that, that's an effective.
Wait, there's the history hit, man. There's Brother Black right there.
Way of communication. But for these purposes here today, you know, we operate in an African rhythm. There you go. And in that African rhythm, everybody gonna hear Alton. If you don't hear Alton, then don't worry about it. Just raise your hand and he'll, you know, tape his speech to make sure everybody hears. So we're gonna operate without the mic check. Go on, brother.
Okay,
Well, I'm really thankful for the youth because it takes me back to the time when I was being oriented towards the practice of law. And that's a very important time. I was talking to a lawyer who I know very well, and he was telling me that he did not have the passion for the law that I have. And I told him that maybe it was different circumstances because I grew up in the Jim Crow South. And where it was regularly accepted to let anybody who did not accept or embrace white supremacy. And so out of that, I had deep resentment for white supremacy and for Jim Crowism. And I really committed myself as a child, as young as you, that one day I would be a part of that army to demolish and smash them. Yes. And so I think you have to be all right. And so given that, I can recall because I was in the Jim Crow South, education wasn't like many of you think, because I was actually reading newspapers before I was 5 years of age. And so I kept up with current events and things that were taking place. And one of the things that really struck my memory and committed my memory to understanding how Jim Crowism can be very dangerous is the lynching of Mary Turner. That's right. Now, if you're not aware of that particular lynching, you should Google it. Of course, when I was going to school, we didn't know anything about Google. So I'm a little bit outdated. But Mary Turner was lynched in Georgia. That's right. And she went to the sheriff's office to complain about the absence of her husband. Right. And they didn't care. And she found out that the sheriff had been a part of a posse that actually removed him from the face of the earth. That's right, killed him. And so she decided to make a complaint, and she told the sheriff that she was going to go outside of that county and to complain. Well, that night, the sheriff and his posse visited her and pulled her out of the apartment or the room or the building that she was in and took her to the highest Georgia pines and set a fire and then lynched her. As she was being lynched, they noticed that she was pregnant. That's right. And so some members of the mob said, does anybody have a knife to slit her stomach? And when they slit her stomach, the baby fell into the fire. That's right. And the members of the mob said, stop him until he died. And that is one of the major memories that I have that really inspired me from that age. And it happened really because my uncle had been to an NAACP convention, and the lynching of Mary Turner was very important to the NAACP, and it was in their journal. And so from that day on, I committed myself in a way that I really did not understand. And that's why when you say that you went to Mr. Muhammad's school, in my opinion, Mr. Muhammad, in my opinion, was the wisest black man in my generation, Elijah Muhammad. Yes, sir. And I remember him saying, the Negro is deaf, dumb, and blind. And I heard that as I was in a taxi cab going to Howard University, the capstone of Negro education. And so as I was in this cab riding to Howard University, this was the first I ever heard Mr. Muhammad. Because in the Jim Crow South, it was censorship. So there were people that we could not hear. And that was one voice that we could not hear. So when this man said, Negroes are deaf, dumb, and blind, I said, wait a minute. I mean, I'm getting ready to go to the capstone of Negro education. I mean, is he saying that all of these people at Howard University are deaf, dumb, and blind? And I said, well, you know, I don't care what happens, that bothers me. The idea that Negroes are deaf, dumb, and blind. But then later on, he said something else that was very important. And something else I remember. And it really has inspired my life. He said that three things the white man will never teach the Negro. The science of mating, which is very important. The science of business, which is very important. And the science of war. And that's really what this is all about. That's what this whole life is about. I don't care whatever you decide to do in life, there's three things that you must understand in order to be able to confront this system. And that is having a knowledge of the science of mating, a knowledge of the science of business, and a knowledge of the science of war. because they all have a common thread. And it is out of that particular teaching that has enabled me to have a wider perspective on this world. Now we're here today about Arizona. And the media has defined the Arizona case as a chokehold death. That's what the media has defined it. But you see, there was one thing that we were taught in slavery and what we must reject today. Because much of our miseducation comes out of our slave teaching.
Like he said, most of our miseducation comes out of our slave teaching. And the children who were there is Alton loved to teach kids. He could be there for 10 hours teaching kids. And the sister who was their teacher, Sister Theta, she and I went to high school together. And she would come to UAM forums. And, when Alton said that, he wanted us at the courthouse, she asked if she could bring her students and if they would be able to report on everything for their class assignment. Alton was overjoyed. So I said, brother, you're going to have a lot of kids out there. You're going to be early. And make sure you come out there and talk to them kids. But um, they loved it. Again, she and I had not seen each other in many years until she started coming to the forums. But I don't know if you all remember a few months back, I talked about my experience in high school, and I had people in the chat who went to school with me who corroborated what I was saying to you all, the racial injustice that we faced in the 80s, going to high school. And so it was good for Alton to see those kids out there, and also for Brother Ramsey Order to see those young people out there supporting him. Also, so many people in that video also made their transitions. And so things came full circle. But again, I just want you all, because we're going to pick this back up next week. I want you all just to get a brief understanding of who this man was and what he gave to his people. Before we close out, I want to give our panelists closing comments, but I want to show you all this video that took place last week. If you don't know, we went on a hike. Sister Marcia, some people have already contacted me. They already put it on their calendars for next year for Earth Day. So the crowd is going to be bigger. So prepare for that. And shout out to Plant Based Kitchen. Even Plant Based Kitchen reached out, said we got to be down next year. Again, UAM Cubs, Plant Based Kitchen, the work that they do in the community. I mean, taking black people who had bank accounts at Chase and move them to Bank of East New York or Carver Bank. These are things that Plant Based Kitchen did. So what you see before you, family, are Cubs on this panel of Alton Maddox. So his voice will never die. But I want to play y'all this clip, and hopefully it would inspire you to join us next year. Here we go. See ya. See ya.
Yeah.
Um, just want to remind, our viewers that this is the foundation of the education that we attain through United African Movement. Whenever children are involved, whenever we can re-educate them, whenever we can put them in environment that they are not used to normally and educate them, it is a prize to you, not to them, but to you. One quote that Alton would say that he learned from the indigenous folks is that the earth is borrowed from the from the youth.
The
That's right.
children.
That's right. It's borrowed from the
From the
children.
children.
That's right. And it must be returned back to them in a better situation than we got it. And so whenever someone asks me to volunteer for children, and if it's in my ability to do so, I honor Alton. I honor Mrs. Maddox, especially going upstate New York. That's my homage. So it never ends. But I want to give our panelists their final thoughts and comments. Brother Peace, your final thoughts and comments until next week, because we got to do a part 2.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm very appreciative of this platform. It's needed. And Sister Keisha, you're doing an excellent job. We will definitely continue to agitate and bring light where there's darkness. So with that, I'm going to say proper education always creates elevation. Peace.
That's right. Peace, peace. Follow Magnetic Peace Tyson on Facebook and the gram. He be posting some powerful, powerful information. So I'm telling you, Magnetic Peace Tyson on Facebook. Sister Pat, your final thoughts and comments.
Well, thanks for inviting me, allowing me to share my little tidbit with my relationship with Alton Maddox and the United African Movement. Um, and since there's going to be a part 2, and if I'm invited there, but I'd like to close out and say, Alton is a cub in the whirlwind, like Marcus Garvey and the rest of us. We are cubs, and he's a great cub in the whirlwinds, and long live his spirit forever.
Thank you, sis. Definitely you invited back for part 2. Sister Veronica posted up a mantra that Alton would always say: Black people lack the understanding of help, which is history,
Ethics,
Logic, and politics.
And we will
Exactly.
continue part 2 right on that. So you jumped the gun, Sister Veronica. I see you, but that's all right. We all in sync. That's UAM for us. We are all in sync. Yes, Freedom Party Unchained, baby. Sister Marcia, we gonna come to you last. Brother Black, your final thoughts and comments.
When I first got to, unlike most of y'all on the panel right now, when I first got to the University of Alton Maddox, or what is better known as the United African Movement, I discovered it when it was in a Dempsey Theater on 127th Street in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was living in Harlem. And what Alton taught me more than anything was to gain a political education. Now, when I used to hear that in the beginning, I used to think it meant go to college and get a political science degree, blah, blah. No, that wasn't what it was about. I'm gonna go back last week a little bit, Keisha, when you talked about Africa aligning themselves with the Russians or the BRICS, as you know, Russia and China for the most part. There's a difference between friends and allies. And when he said in my opinion, when he said get a political education, that means aligning yourself with those you may need to for the moment, knowing they're not your friend really, but they're the best option. And then, as opposed to aligning yourselves with wolves and sheep clothing, which we know is the West, being led by the United States and England for the most part. So, peace goes out to that brother. We didn't even mention Sister Leola, his wife. Oh man, that was my heart. She was, oh man.
Part two, brother. Part two.
Whenever I was around her, I'm sorry. Peace out to all of y'all out there. I'll see y'all next week. Love the panel. Peace, love. Friend me on Sister Pat, please. Friend me on Flavius Jones on Facebook. I'm done. Peace, y'all.
Definitely, you can follow my brother Black on Facebook, Flavius Jones, and check out his blogs and all the information that he posts. Sister Marcia, Africans on the Rise. What's good? Final thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
It's the good life. Let's study. Very good. I like the points that Alton said that we must study. We must study the science of mating. How do we become better people? Because without our universe, without our Black universe, seeing couples, it's a deficit to our community. Understanding the science of business, very important, because it's not only about having a business, it's about creating a legacy of business so that it can withstand the times and be here for 200 years, 1,000 years, because they've done a really slick job, but we could out slick them. And the last thing is military. And military is as small as hiking together as a group like we did last weekend. That's as small as we get. Of course, we need other forms of military science, but this is the first step to getting people to work together and help each other out. I love Alton Maddox for everything that he brought to the table. I may not have a legacy of knowledge like most of the panel does, but this short time was a powerful time. And may his spirit in the whirlwind continue to reawaken myself and my community and my nation. Thank you, Terrible Talk, for having us, having me, having all of us, right? Even the ancestors that's there in the space with us. And I will see you on the Black hand side.
Yes, indeed, sis. Yes, indeed. Shout out to Dr. Filet. We was chatting on the back end. She will hopefully join us next week, as well as Sister Pam Africa, who I reached out to. So
Wow.
get ready for part two next week as we continue to honor this great man and the work that he did for our people. As my sisters said, it is important that we understand the time that we are in. Learning. I mean, people will say to Austin, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. He wrote volumes. And if you were ever in tune with the University of Automatics online, I mean, that alone was volumes and volumes of work. I know Brother Peace has them, and Sister Pat, myself, we still have our programs going back. So we have a wealth of information that he gave us to live by. And it was my biological brother who was incarcerated um, at an early age. In my early life, encouraged me to go to UAM. Now, again, he was incarcerated. He had never seen a UAM, but he knew of it. And he made sure his big sister
Wow.
was there because actually, I don't know if Sister Pat and Brother Peace know, but Brother Muhammad, who was security of UAM in the early days, my mom would keep his son while he did security for UAM. So he would
Mm,
always, when I was maybe 17 years of age, bring me to programs because I used to sit tenant patrol and I would wait for him to come in. Sometimes he come 12 o'clock at night, but I would get those programs.
yeah.
And then my mom would allow me to go to the forums because she knew Mr. Muhammad was there, right? And I would be okay. So again, you never know how someone will touch you in your life to make you see things much clearer than you thought before. The reason why you have thorough black talk today is because Alton Maddox made us understand the power of independent black media and the need for it, right? And so we are continuing, right? It never dies. We are continuing. But next week, we will continue with part two. Y'all stay black, keep it thorough, and we'll meet you back here next week on the Brooklyn Bridge, baby. Good night, family. We out.